Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the complete blueprint, the ground rules, and the on-the-ground reality of the UK's digital future. We are looking at a massive ecosystem of government policies and strategic goals that are essentially rewriting how business, identity, and technology operate in the UK. Let's get right into it.
So, here's the big question. Can the UK actually become the ultimate, most digitally capable and AI-confident nation in the entire G7 by 2035? That's the incredibly ambitious goal set out by the SME Digital Adoption Task Force. And we aren't just talking about a few minor upgrades here. We're talking about a fundamental shift designed to secure the UK's position as a global science and tech superpower. But, as we all know, having a big goal is one thing, and successfully executing it across a totally diverse economy, well, that's a whole different ballgame.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the grand digital strategy. Then, building trusted digital identities. After that, AI, innovation versus regulation. Then we'll cover digitizing small businesses. And finally, bridging the regional divide.
All right, starting right at the top, the grand digital strategy.
So the 2022 UK digital strategy is basically built on 6 very distinct pillars. It starts with your digital foundations, the nuts and bolts like infrastructure, data, and security. Then it moves into ideas and IP to really juice up that innovation ecosystem. Next up is digital skills and talent because, well, you need a workforce that can actually build this future, right? Pillar 4 is financing digital growth to help these tech startups really scale. The 5th is spreading prosperity and leveling up, making sure the whole country gets a slice of the pie. And finally, enhancing the UK's global influence. This right here is the master blueprint.
Now let's move from the high-level strategy to something very concrete, building trusted digital identities.
So what exactly is a digital identity in this framework? Basically, it's a secure, totally user-controlled representation of who you are, usually living right there in a digital wallet on your phone. And I want to be absolutely clear here because the UK government stresses this. These are not mandatory national ID cards. Nobody is forcing you to have one. It's totally voluntary. It's just a highly secure way to prove your identity. Meaning you can finally stop dragging around those crumpled paper utility bills and physical passports every single time you need to verify yourself. Huge relief, right?
And this setup brilliantly illustrates the whole concept of attributes, which is literally the core of the UK's trust framework. Look at how individual pieces of information just branch off the core identity. Think about it. If you're buying age-restricted goods online, why should you have to hand over your name, your home address, and your exact date of birth? You shouldn't. With this, you just share a single attribute that says, yep, over 18 or over 21. Or maybe you just need to prove you're a resident of Newcastle to get a local service. You are in total control of sharing only the specific isolated data they actually need. It drastically reduces your exposure to fraud.
Let's bring this back to a real-world example from the source material. Meet Sanvi. Let's say she needs to open a new bank account and rent a flat. Instead of digging through her drawers for utility bills and passports to separately prove who she is to both the bank and the estate agent, she just creates a digital identity with an online provider. Crucially, what she's looking for is a specific trust mark. It's a little symbol proving that this provider actually follows the incredibly strict security and privacy rules of the UK trust framework. Once she's verified, boom, she uses that single secure digital identity to instantly satisfy both the bank and the estate agent. It's faster, it's way easier, and it is so much safer for her personal data.
All right, shifting gears a bit. Let's look at AI, innovation versus regulation.
This is a really fascinating comparison. We are looking at 2 totally different regulatory philosophies playing out literally right next door to each other. The UK's AI regulation white paper outlines an approach that's decentralized, context-specific, and very pro-innovation. They aren't going out and creating some massive new AI watchdog. Instead, they're empowering bodies that already exist, like the Financial Conduct Authority for finance or the Information Commissioner's Office for data, to apply AI principles in their own specific sectors. On the flip side, you have the EU AI Act. This is a centralized, horizontal law. It sweeps all AI into 4 strict risk tiers, ranging from minimal all the way up to unacceptable, and enforces the whole thing via a centralized European AI office.
The mechanical differences in how these 2 models actually operate on the ground are super striking. The UK model is all about prioritizing speed and agility. Because they're using regulatory guidance instead of rigid, hard-coded new laws, UK regulators can adapt incredibly quickly as AI capabilities evolve. They judge the AI based on its context, right? So an AI used in healthcare is obviously judged differently than an AI used in retail.
The EU model, however, goes all in on legal certainty and standardization across the market. They categorize the AI by its inherent nature. And when it comes down to enforcement, the EU has predefined severe financial penalties for noncompliance. The UK, meanwhile, relies on the existing penalty structures of its individual sector regulators. Both models absolutely aim for safety, but they are taking radically different paths to get there.
Let's move on and see how this builds into our next area, digitizing small businesses.
Getting small and medium enterprises, SMEs, to actually adopt digital tech, that is essentially the whole engine behind that G7 tech superpower goal we talked about earlier. To make it happen, the SME Digital Adoption Task Force published this 10-step action plan. They are calling for some serious leadership here, including a direct number 10 Downing Street initiative and a single dedicated minister just for SME digital and AI adoption. But here's the part that's incredibly innovative. They're recommending a scalable online chief technology officer as a service. Just imagine that for a second. A small local bakery or a family plumbing business getting access to an AI-powered CTO to guide their tech upgrades, all backed by a test and learn approach. It's literally about bringing top-tier digital strategy directly to the high street.
Finally, let's talk about the biggest hurdle in all of this, bridging the regional divide.
This quote from Tech UK really hits the nail on the head. It exposes a major challenge. Look, while the UK's overall tech sector is booming, that boom is dangerously uneven. According to the local Digital Capital Index, regions like Greater London and the southeast of England are performing phenomenally well. We're talking robust, world-class digital ecosystems. But if you look at Northern Ireland, Wales, or the northeast of England, they are significantly lagging behind in crucial areas like digital infrastructure, skills, and investment. A tech sector that is entirely reliant on the south of England simply isn't sustainable for the wider UK economy. It just doesn't work long-term.
Now, what's really interesting about this number is the sheer scale of the missed opportunity. £4.8 billion. That is the massive potential economic injection, the gross value-added gap that is just sitting there waiting to be unlocked if the UK can successfully bridge these regional tech divides. If local communities across the entire country can be brought up to speed digitally, we aren't just talking about a few more tech jobs. We're talking about a multi-billion-pound boost to the national economy. It's a real game changer.
So how do we actually unlock that £4.8 billion? Well, the Tech UK report lays out some very tangible solutions. First up, rolling out Project Gigabyte to ensure rural communities aren't left behind in the dark ages of connectivity. Second, ensuring that government investment zones explicitly function as local tech zones to really draw in talent and businesses. Third, drastically improving the data we have on local digital skills so we actually know exactly where the gaps are. And finally, decentralizing finance. Right now, venture capital is hyper-concentrated in London. Providing better access to venture capital and angel investment regionally, that is absolutely vital if local tech startups are going to survive and thrive.
So, we've covered the grand strategy, the trust frameworks for digital identity, the agile approach to AI regulation, and this massive push to modernize small businesses. But it all comes down to this provocative question. Will the UK's context-led, pro-innovation gamble actually secure its place as a global digital superpower? Or will these stark regional divides leave too many citizens and businesses entirely offline? It's a really delicate balancing act between high-tech ambition and equitable growth. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.